joining us now. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian, also with us, Washington Post associate editor Ruth Marcus, who is a lawyer as well as a journalist. Ken, first to you. Justice Alito basically says his wife is a private citizen. Democratic lawmakers, though, are largely powerless in these calls to recuse himself.
Yeah, that's right, Andrea, because the Supreme Court makes its own rules, and it's up to each justice to decide whether the recusal standard applies. And the standard, of course, is whether a justice's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Alito has decided unilaterally that his cannot be in this matter, and no one, not even the other justices, can force Alito to disqualify himself. Now, it's interesting, there's legislation pending in Congress that would require the court to adopt a binding code of conduct and strengthen recusal rules, but that bill is stalled in the Republican-led House. And even if it passed, it would face a challenge on separation of powers grounds. And guess who would end up deciding that? The Supreme Court. Congressman Jamie Raskin is urging the Attorney General to petition the other justices to require both Alito and Clarence Thomas to recuse themselves from these January 6 cases. But that seems unlikely to happen. And even if it did, the justices almost certainly would politely decline, Andrea.
And Ruth, as a lawyer and a journalist, you wrote this column in the Washington Post today taking apart Alito's response to Democrats. You wrote, Alito wrapped himself in an unconvincing blend of faux feminism and free speech with an Alito-esque helping of victimhood. And how do you really feel about all this?
Well, kind of like that. I wrote it as a lawyer, as a journalist, and also as a spouse. And Andrea, you and I have both, you more than I, navigated the complexities not just of marriages, but of Washington marriages, where, yes, just because you have a right to do something doesn't mean it's wise for you to do it if it would reflect adversely on your spouse. And so here we have simultaneously Justice Alito proclaiming his wife's right to do what she wants, but also hanging her out to dry in a way that I cannot recall having seen in all my years in Washington journalism. He's saying, I mean, the most extraordinary one is where he says, I asked her to take it down and she refused, and because we own the house jointly, I had no other recourse. How about saying, honey, this is really a problem. It's making me look bad. Take down the darn flag. But apparently in the Alito marriage is different, and it went on for 4 days.
And in the Clarence Thomas marriage, I mean, he could also have said, I know you have the right to his wife, Ginny Thomas. You have the right to do anything politically that you want, but to really want to be, a part of an effort to overturn an election when I'm going to have to rule on these, when I, in fact, am ruling on election challenges right now.
Precisely. It's terrible judgment. It's terrible judgment on the part of the spouses, and it's terrible judgment on the part of the principals. And one of the things that was extremely revealing was that Justice Alito said that when the upside down flag, I don't really quite know how you would miss that if it was on the flagpole in your yard, when the upside down flag was brought to his attention, he immediately asked that it be taken down. Well, if he immediately asked that it be taken down, seems to me that's an admission that he understood it was improper. So if he understood that it was improper, why are the rest of us who are suggesting now that it was improper for that to be flying, why are we somehow being so unfair to him and Mrs. Alito?